guys, Bilbo10,000 here, bringing you episode 21 of Rate Their Chances, the series where we rate the chances for potential newcomers making it into the base roster for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, inspired by the thread of the same name over on Smashboards, which you can find in the description. If you haven't checked out the previous episodes in the series, or you want to see if your favorite character has been rated or re-rated, click the card in the top right corner for a link to the series playlist, or check the description for a link to my Google spreadsheet containing all the information on my series thus far, including rates, re-rates, and results. So last week was fun, right? It was certainly telling that while searching through the comments for people to rate this week, the majority of the comments were either sharing their thoughts on my ratings, or condemning me for either leaving a character out or rating a character too low or too high. This series is based entirely on researched opinions after all, and opinions will always create some form of contention. That being said, I want to make things clear, I'm not trying to offend any fandoms or upset anyone whose character I simply don't have faith in. The 20 characters I narrowed my chances down to last week are the characters who I feel have the most chance of making the base roster, and above all else, this is a series that tries to correctly predict characters being announced. And with many of those choices, I went with a gut feeling as well as research. Sometimes a character could have all of the pavement lined up for them, but still won't get in just because of a gut feeling. And that's sort of what I had to weigh when it came to my decisions, so I apologize if you guys don't agree, but these are my thoughts. With that being said, today we've got 5 more characters all vying for contention. So who are we rating today? Well, today's characters we will be rating are Sephiroth from Final Fantasy VII, suggested by Kremonsky, Professor E Gadd from the Luigi's Mansion series, suggested by Gregory Gaming, Agumon from the Digimon franchise, suggested by Aster1642, Jeanne as an Echo Fighter of Bayonetta from the Bayonetta series, suggested by Asaf Chan, and Dry Bowser as an Echo Fighter of Bowser from the Mario series, suggested by Jose Gonzalez. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you do, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you're interested for more. And remember, the most liked comment will have their character rated in the next episode next week. Without further ado, let us begin. With Cloud's inclusion to the Smash Bros. Series, and the Final Fantasy Smash logo specifically being for Final Fantasy VII, as opposed to a generic Final Fantasy logo, many players have wondered if Square Enix will play ball and allow more of Final Fantasy to come to Smash Bros. So far with the Switch, they're playing ball, bringing old Final Fantasy classics to the Switch and supporting the console with other exclusives like Octopath Traveler. But in Smash, is the same care being given? So far, we know from the August Direct that Final Fantasy still has 2 music tracks. Whether this will remain the case, we have yet to see, but it's not a good position for the franchise if they're getting no new music for this game, no matter how pricey it may be. Especially when, if you're interested in getting Sephiroth in the game, there's no way he could be added without his iconic one-winged angel theme. Sephiroth is the main villain of the 7th installment of the Final Fantasy franchise and the most iconic villain from the franchise to boot. He's an emo man with amazingly shiny hair. His sword is about 15 times as big as it has any right to be, and he's known in any medium he appears in to be an absolute beast of an opponent. Final Fantasy VII, he's the final boss. In the Kingdom Hearts games, he's an optional super boss. But could he work in Smash as a character? Well, the biggest issue is his sword. Size doesn't matter normally, but Sephiroth's sword is a little bit too big. Ridley's got nothing on the side of Sephiroth's prized blade. It would need to be shrunken down somewhat to even have a chance at being balanced. You also couldn't make Sephiroth an Echo of Cloud due to his different style of weapon and overall fighting style, so he'd need to get in as a unique character. But honestly, I personally think if Sephiroth is getting into Ultimate, he'll either get a trophy that is collectible, or a boss fight. My reasoning behind this is very simple. If you can't nerf that sword, just make it a big boss weapon and thus the nerfing is no longer required. Final Fantasy, out of all the DLC franchises added in Smash 4, has the least amount of content in the game, and desperately needs new content to feel like the franchise is actually being represented. The bare minimum isn't going to cut it, Square Enix. Sephiroth playable would be a dream for many after all. That being said, Sephiroth gets a chance score of 5% of appearing as a fighter in the base roster. The lack of one-winged angel really seals the deal for me at this point, assuming those two tracks are still the only Final Fantasy tracks in the game. I can't see Sephiroth joining the battle without his iconic, really expensive, yet totally worth it theme. I really can see him appearing as a boss though, which might be more enjoyable in the long run. As for a want score, Sephiroth gets a 65%. I'd love to play as the brooding white-haired swordsman with a penchant for wanting to end the world and spearing best girls to death, really, I would. We're really scraping the bottom of the barrel, aren't we? I apologize to anyone that genuinely wants Professor E Gadd from the Luigi's Mansion franchise, but why? E Gadd is the inventive mind behind Luigi's Poltergust, which he constantly upgrades between the Luigi's Mansion games. His character has made various cameos in other Mario games, most notably Superstar Saga, where he appears to give the player various upgrade items for making different coffees at the Starbeans Cafe. He's also had cameos in other spin-off titles, but his only known Smash appearance is in Smash 4 as a collectible trophy. Now, for the sake of making this interesting, E Gadd's moveset would certainly be inspired by the inventions he has helped create, possibly utilizing a Luigi's Mansion style of gameplay, using the Poltergust as his main weapon, as opposed to Luigi, who only uses it in his final Smash. He could fire plunges like Luigi can in Luigi's Mansion 3, suck up opponents with his vacuum. He could even pull out his own variation of Flood, as he was the person who invented the contraption in the first place. But therein lies the problem with a playable E Gadd. All of his inventions that could be used for battle have already been incorporated into Mario and Luigi's movesets, leaving the character feeling very hollow for moveset ideas. On top of this, the demand for E Gadd as a character is minimal, having zero presence online during the Smash Ballot era, nor having any presence now as a potential character pick. He's just an unrealistic cult choice. So, naturally, Professor E Gadd gets a 0% chance score. It won't happen, not in base, nor in DLC. Some characters simply aren't made to be playable fighters. E Gadd is one of those characters, and due to this, my want score for the character is honestly 0%. I find no interest in the character. I just don't think the world is clamoring for E Gadd to join the fight. Bandai Namco has not been very lucky when it comes to receiving new representatives in the Smash Bros. Franchise. They've had Pac-Man and then that's it. If you all recall, back when I rated Heihachi in episode 19, I brought up an interview with Sakurai in 2015 where he was asked about the potential for new Bandai Namco reps. His reply, there were none. We basically thought of all the characters at the start of development. We decided on characters we knew we could make, however there were a few in consideration. He went on to name drop Heihachi, but it says a lot that there wasn't much faith in Bandai Namco's properties to make a new fighter. I also stated in that episode that I personally think the only two characters from Bandai Namco's library who are in contention are Heihachi and Lloyd Irving, both whom are popular picks from their respective franchises, especially Lloyd, who came fourth in a recent Reddit tournament bracket, and they both did receive Mii costumes, which is a pretty big plus in my book. And I still believe this to be the case, so Agumon from the Digimon franchise is sadly someone I am pretty sure won't be happening. Now, Digimon has had 14 different games across the GameCube, Game Boy Advance, Nintendo DS, and Nintendo 3DS, so it's a franchise that has been on Nintendo consoles. Agumon is the main face of the franchise, the mascot of the games, the anime, and every other form of media, and has a design that could definitely work in a Smash environment. There's no denying that. Agumon could make an interesting fighter, and Digimon is like Pokemon in that there is a large variety of characters to choose from, and there are many unique Digimon that could take a playable role. But on the other side of things, Digimon as a franchise really just isn't as popular as it used to be. especially with a more casual audience. Despite the fact that neither franchise had anything to do with the other, Pokemon really trumped Digimon in his sales back in the 90s, and that mentality has stayed within the casual consciousness ever since. Agumon would be cool and a great blast from the past, but realistically, his chance score is 0%. He's not in contention to be in the base roster in my eyes, though he may have a shot at DLC if Bandai Namco doesn't get a new representative by the game's launch. As for a want score, Agumon gets a 75%. I loved Digimon as much as I loved Pokemon as a kid, and while I did leave my Digimon phase, so to speak, the franchise still deserves some love in this day and age. One of the characters that has risen to potential contention ever since Echo Fighters were introduced, Jeanne from the Bayonetta series has been a hotly debated character for two very different reasons. On the one hand, Jeanne fits the criteria for an Echo Fighter, being Bayonetta's equal in her home series, just dressed in red rather than Bayonetta's black. On the other hand, nobody wants Jeanne because if she's anything like Bayonetta, we can say goodbye to the competitive scene, am I right? Really though, Jeanne as an Echo can be solved in a few mere moments of speculation. You see, we're lucky enough to know that Bayonetta was in the E3 demo. For those of you not in the know, since E3 we've had two more Echo Fighter reveals from returning franchises, Dark Samus and Chrom, and if speculation that Ken is in the game is also true, that makes my point even more interesting. You see, Samus lost her Dark Samus color swap, Ike lost his Chrom color swap, and Ryu has seemingly lost his Ken color swap. However, Bayonetta still has her Jeanne color swap. This, to me, is a death sentence for Jeanne as an Echo Fighter, as her color swap is still in Bayonetta's alt colors, whereas those missing color swaps turned out to be Echo Fighters, with Ken still being up in the air. There's no more reason to go on, guys. I'm confident in saying that Jeanne has a 0% chance of appearing in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate as an Echo Fighter or a unique fighter. That color swap, in conjunction with how other Echoes had their palettes removed, kills her chances for me. But I like Jeanne. 90%. I want to see the entire fandom explode from pure salt. It would be hilarious, and Jeanne is kind of awesome in her home game too. She would be fun. I want her. Let's get Jeanne. Jeanne for Smash. Continuing on with the theme of alt coloring from Jeanne's segment, Bowser has never had a specific Dry Bowser alt coloring, though in Ultimate's lineup, only one alternate costume really feels like a Dry Bowser costume, and even then I'm not sure the colors match up perfectly. Dry Bowser is a character that has been highly requested from the Mario franchise as an Echo, but is he really going to be an Echo Fighter? I could totally see Dry Bowser as an alternate costume, similar to how Ridley is getting a Meta Ridley costume on top of his 8 skins we already know about. There's been speculation as to whether we could see costumes for characters as a new function in the game, a new unlockable that you can obtain within the game. It would add a whole new layer towards characters being possible and playable, and I think could be extremely interesting in shaking up which characters make it in. Dry Bowser as an Echo I assume would use the same moves, just he'd have a little Dry Bowser flair using bones and fire rather than skin and fire. I actually prefer Dry Bowser's design to normal Bowser, so I'm all for a Dry Bowser character. I just don't know if his Echo is really possible. But it's not disconfirmed in the same way that Jeanne's been shut out. And it's a pretty easy Echo to come by. Dry Bowser as an Echo gets a 15% chance score and an 80% want score. I think he's got a genuine shot either as an Echo or an alternate skin costume, plus I seriously like the character. He ties with Decidueye in the 20th spot on my list, and I'm interested to see if he makes it in. He is in contention. Thank you very much everybody for watching this episode of Rate Their Chances. It was a bit of a smaller episode because a lot of these characters were pretty quick to kind of rate. Like, you didn't have to focus too much on Jeanne, didn't have to focus too much on Dry Bowser, Professor E Gadd is never getting in, you know, Sephiroth was really the big character to rate here, and he was at the start of the video. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to have your own character rated and they haven't been rated yet, leave a comment down below, get it to be the most liked, and it may be selected for next week's episode. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will see you guys next time. If you're interested, consider joining my Discord down below. You get updates on all my future videos there. It's a really cool place, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.